All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Sorry for the delay as always. We're just waiting on Kyle to get back here. We have one viewer and one like. That's always good. Um, I can see you, Kyle. Can you see us? Hey, two viewers. We're moving and grooving. How about it, Kyle? Can you hear us? All right. We're just waiting on Kyle to solve any potential technical issues that are going on. Video just crapped out for me. So, that's loads of fun. Ooh, I wonder if it's oh, I know what happened. I minimized I minimized the chat. And before anyone asks, no, I am not trying to be all artistic and everything. I'm having slight camera problems right now, but I'm not touching it. I am not going to change any settings because there is video at least. So hopefully the camera won't completely crap out and we can keep this going. So we're waiting on Kyle to jump back and join our merry menagerie of misfittery. So how are you guys doing tonight? I hope everybody is doing fine and dandy. It is 6 p.m. on the eastern coast of the United States right now. Well, 6:08. And welcome to it. Welcome to the Crazy Gibberish. And I got to be honest, if it weren't for having co-host Kyle here, I might have skipped out on you guys today. Just because yesterday was such a whirlwind, and I'm going to get into that a little bit when Kyle is able to reconnect. Let me just give him the thumbs up real quick so he knows that everything is okay on this end. But anyway, yeah. So yesterday I did a stream, of course, from 1 to 2, and then we had Thai Beard from 4:30 until whenever we went on. Almost 7 yesterday, really. And it was about 8 before I got done cooking dinner. So yeah, yesterday was quite the whirlwind, and I was like, oh man, I'm exhausted. But no, I wanted to do this, and I wanted to bring this to you guys. So here we are. I'm gonna adjust some settings. And see if we can get the video flipped around. Let's see. That's my camera. Let me just zip over here and go to my settings. So I hope everybody out there in YouTube land, both of you, are doing fine and dandy. I don't know what we're gonna talk about today. I do know that unless Kyle wants to do this today, tomorrow we're actually going to have the first ever Crazy Gibberish mail call. That's right. I have received something from a viewer, from a regular watcher of the stream, and he has sent me several awesome things, and I cannot wait to show these to you guys. So I'll wait to show these to you guys. Now let's see. Let's take a look and see if at the very least we can get that. Let's see. Oh, that's no good. And can I do this? Show non-video participants. Nope. So apparently, unless I'm missing something, I don't know how to flip things, but it does let me point this way to things on my right that are over here and my left that are over here, and I don't have to make just blind stabs at things that are behind me if I want to indicate anything. So let me check that camera resolution and so on and see if I can get that fixed, at least as far as color goes. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm just stepping right there to the camera. So Nobody move. Actually, I'm going to check something in OBS too. I'm going to see if OBS will, let's see, properties. Oh, here comes Kyle, I think, maybe. He's trying to get here. So hopefully that'll work for him. Because when he dialed in just before this... Hey, I hear you, man. I don't see you yet, but there you go. You're in a different environment. Kyle Schuant, number appearing 1.
Yes.
This Kyle Schuant guards a 10 by 10 room filled with treasure type C. All right, man. Good to see you. I mean, come on. What would this show be without lots of technical problems? So anyway. So Kyle, welcome.
So how come you're black and white today?
I'm feeling artsy,
I know it's old school, but how come you're...
I'm going for that for that Danish art film look, like Seventh Seal or The Virgin Spring or something like that. Actually, I think it's a camera setting, and as tenuous as my technological issues have been, I'm not going over there to touch the settings, because honestly, at this point, I'm afraid if I did, you and everybody else would hear this loud boom, and then you just see like parts of me raining. Well, no, you wouldn't, because I will have lost video at that point. There's
We'll just pretend it's live streaming in the 1970s.
Yeah, exactly. Live streaming from some security CCTV he commandeered in the corner of a bank. It's Bill Sylvie. But anyway, it's all good. I got my wobble pop, and I'm gonna have a cold one.
What wobble pop?
Wobble pop. This particular one's one of the
drink that makes you wobble.
It is exactly it. It is a potion of fumbling. However, the potion of fumbling to the imbiber increases their charisma, intelligence, strength, and bravery. And it goes up by 1 point for every single one consumed. So anyway, no, this is just a little cold one I got. This is it's actually from Wisconsin. We have Gary to blame for me liking Leinenkugels. This is a shandy, so it's not really like a proper... Like, I watch some streamers, and I guess the thing now is we kind of come back around to like scotches and bourbons, and they're like, yeah, when it comes to that brown drink, man, that's like, it tastes like iodine strained through a peat bog to me. I'm sorry. If I'm gonna enjoy a little bit of a buzz or get completely hammered, why can't what I'm drinking taste good? I don't think it's a sin to say, no, I don't want a beer that tastes like bong water. I don't want a drink that...
You mean a craft beer? We call them craft beers.
Yeah, the big thing... I was super happy for a few years because ciders were all the rage, and I still like a good cider, I've gone on about one called Cider Boys they have here. It's Grand Mimosa. It's orange and apple flavored cider, and it's to die for. I really like it. Probably too much. But after ciders, everybody went nuts for hops. Like, I want hops. I want everything to taste like hops. And hoppy IPAs taste like earwax. And we all remember when we were kids, we'd get earwax on our finger, either deliberately or accidentally, and then stick our fingers in our mouth. That hyper bitter, burned rubber taste. That's what IPAs taste like. And if you're out there and you've got skunk Weissen sitting in your fridge, and you're like, that's not what IPAs taste like, that's a damn lie. That's what IPAs taste like.
Well, here you're not allowed to have craft beers unless you also have a glorious beard,
Yep.
well groomed,
Mutton
combed, oiled,
chops. Or mutton chops.
well, the haircut, they often go for the Hitler Jugend haircut, with it's like
Yes.
shaven on the sides and then it's carefully combed over on the top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Hitler Youth haircut. Yeah, it goes with the beard.
The haircut that says, "How are things in the fatherland?"
Yeah, except for the beard.
Yeah, except for the beard, yeah. So yes, I'm just enjoying a glorious, refreshing beer, a beer that tastes good, and I'm not afraid to, I'll see guys get, triple hopsecutioner and stuff like that, and they're like, oh man, this is so good. Their face is trying to become a black hole singularity at the bitterness of it, and I'm like, bitch, fuck you. I'm over here having an apple cider, a hard apple cider, and enjoying every drop of it.
In my little strength training corner of the world, there's a guy, Mark Rippito, who's famous for loving his whiskey, and basically everyone he trained goes through this phase of drinking whiskey. And I firmly hold that nobody actually likes it. They're just sucking up to him.
No, nobody. The one guy, and he probably sucked up to somebody, not Mark Rippito, by the way. I'm just saying, the one guy who shows up and is like, have you tried Glenlivet? Let's get you a glass. It's on me. If you don't like it, you don't have to finish it. The one guy that shows up to the bar and is like that is like, well, I don't want to back down. And, so they go home and they buy, a McPete Moss 7-year aged, and put it on their shelf, and it sits there. And maybe they had, maybe Christmas party, maybe Thanksgiving get together, maybe just a house party. Then they break it down and they pour a couple of fingers and they're like, have you tried this? Yeah. Let me, you know what? I'll get you an easy starter one. Let me get you a glass of Glengarry Glen Ross, and you can try that out, and that'll be awesome. And then it's just like, it's this virus of,
whiskey and all the rest. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love whiskey. It's great.
Yeah.
Smoky aftertaste. And I'm just like, no.
Yeah, and
you don't like it.
And it went well because it's awful. It went well with the whole, I'm a strength coach, so I do difficult things and like drink whiskey and and eat and drink stuff that I hate. So it actually caught on, I think, because it was so awful. If it had just been like Coke or something, it wouldn't have caught on. If the Rippito had been like, have a Coke.
Well, I first of all, I just have to say, and disagrees with me, I don't care how deep into strength training you are. Rippito is a great name. Like that, the barbarian fighter Rippito, Well, and it's so close to, and I've gone blank on the actor's name, but the character from the first Mad Max movie, Toe Cutter. I mean, Rippito, Toe Cutter. If I ever meet this guy and he's not doesn't look like Toe Cutter, I'm going to be a little disappointed, to be honest, Kyle. I won't tell him that, But
he just looks like a 60-year-old Texan guy,
okay. Well, that's acceptable. Speaking of Texans, did you? Oh, go ahead. Good.
Yeah. Texans.
No, oh no, I don't know if you caught yesterday's live stream. We had Ty Beard on, who, I mean, that is the most Texas name ever. Like if his name, because Ty is short for Tyrone, his name is actually Tyrone Beard. And I mean, like, if somehow he was related to the Rippito family and it was Tyrone Beard Rippito, the sheer manliness of that would almost be too much for even Texas to contain. But no, Ty is an attorney, but he also designed a war game called A Fistful of Toes, tube launched, optically guided, wire controlled, not toes like the phalanges on the end of your feet. That would be a fun role-playing game. Got a supplement for zombies, all flesh must be eaten. But no, Ty designed a World War III or Cold War gone hot board game called A Fistful of Toes, and it's very. You can play operational level games with it if you're really just going to waste a Saturday and the following Sunday, but it's a good squad and single armored unit based game. And so he created that, and he kind of has come back around into gaming circles. So I had Ty on yesterday, and we talked about the rising tide of idiocy that's coming from certain corners about the alleged racism that is inherent in Dungeons and Dragons. And we don't have to go over that again unless you absolutely have something you want to say about it, but it's bullshit. That was our conclusion after 2.5 hours of talking about horror movies and D&D and computer games, was that
the only one I saw apart from the old Orcs Are Black People, which apparently only non-racists see, which I don't really.
Yeah.
I always thought that racist if you see a certain ethnic group as orcs. But
yeah,
anyway,
can you imagine just going up?
And that's been around since the 90s or something like that. There was, what was it? Was it Greg? I want to say it's Greg Kostikin, the paranoia guy. He wrote a parody role-playing game where you go into public housing projects and you kick it down doors and you kill people. And
fucking violence. Like, the role-playing game.
Yeah, and I thought that was a big to all the gamers out there. So I was a bit insulted by that. That's his attempt at commentary or something, or I don't know what it was, but I don't know what the hell he was trying to do, but it didn't work.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I felt it didn't work. The only one I've seen recently was that idiot who said that D&D was anti-Semitic, which, as a Jewish person playing it since 1983, came as a great surprise to me. And his only evidence was an interview from Tolkien in the 1960s, where he said, "Oh, dwarves kind of remind you of Jews, don't they? You know, they're bearded and they like jewels and stuff."
Yeah, they're.
And that was it. That and the phylactery that the lich keeps his soul in.
Yeah.
And for those who aren't Jewish and don't know, the phylactery. So if you ever see the guys doing that thing where they wrap it around, they got the thing on their forehead and they wrap it around their hand, and that. It's just a little box with a bit of Torah in, and it comes from a little bit in the Bible saying, you shall take my name and mark it upon your doorposts and carry it on your forehead and upon your hand and blah blah blah. And they took that literally to do that little ritual, and that's the English name for that is a phylactery. And that's it. He pulled out those two things.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, well, and that's Tolkien, and it's not present in the books, but it was present in the interview. And D&D dwarves are basically a copy of Tolkien dwarves. So it's like, dude, I'm not. Yeah. His article had no comments. You couldn't comment on it, and he had no contact details for you to email him. And I think there was a reason for that.
The cowards always. The cowards always do that. There's a famous strip, and it has to do with feminist opinions, which I don't really want to argue about that, but it's a comic strip, and there's a woman, and she's got this huge pile of horse manure and a shovel, and she's flinging it over this wall labeled "the internet." Just at random, just laughing and flinging. I think the shit pile is like feminist opinions, but I've seen it relabeled like Democrat opinions, Republican opinions, and so on and etc.
Yeah.
But she's throwing this stuff blindly over the wall, and in the last panel, it's all flying back over and landing on her, and she's screaming, "Help! I'm being attacked!" And that's basically what these cats that go out there and do things like this, they make these statements. D&D is racist, gamers are Nazis.
I think if you write an article or you do something, you've got to leave the comments open or have your contact details, because in the whole thing of the importance of free speech is, it's nowadays it's become, no, he can't say that because that's wrong. That's misinformation, like anti-vax. Like, I'm pro-vaccination. Mm-hmm. My children are all vaccinated. That's all sensible. But we need anti-vaxxers out there to make us continue thinking critically about it, because all the vaccines so far have been good, but one may come along that isn't so great, that does have side effects. The sort of the thalidomide of vaccines bound to happen eventually, just by accident, for all the great testing that they put in, and we need that critical person to be able to speak up, and that's how science works. That's how society progresses. 100 people say something, and everyone thinks all 100 are crazy, but one of them is actually quite smart. The other 99 are just wrong.
Yeah.
But that one is really smart, and we need to be able to hear from them. So I don't believe in like shutting comments. Moderating comments is fair enough. If somebody just wants to write shitcock to you, you don't need. You don't need to let that comment through. Moderating comments is fine, but you've got to have comments open or your contact details, so people can tell you if they think you're full of shit, or they can tell you if they think that you're awesome, but this one thing might be improved or whatever. You've got to be able to have that conversation. I mean, we just don't have monologues. We don't have a speech where everyone just sits there and waits to the end to applaud and is scared to be the last one to stop applauding, Stalin style. We need people who tell us when we're full of shit. That's why us men get married. So.
Just so. They stop us from trying to become triathletes or MMA fighters or what have you. No. I think you're right, and I think the people who promulgate the odious about step with them are cowards. I remember we have this politician who is, I think you have even heard of her down there, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. And when she started, she is. I'm sorry to any of my viewers who vote Democrat, and if this is hurtful to you, I apologize. I don't care if she got a degree in economics. She doesn't display it. She is a skillful manipulator of people and their emotions. But when it comes to the topics that she claims...
Well, that's a politician.
Yeah. that high charisma.
That's a successful politician.
Yeah. And wouldn't you know, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez jumped into the game late enough after the comeliness stat had been added, so she doesn't just have to worry about charisma. But which she's got in spades. Don't misunderstand me. But when she was running initially, or shortly after she got it was when she was running for her district, and the party machine was moving in high gear to make sure that her opponent, a Democrat, by the way, got primaried and would get kicked out. She was hot on social media, and she said, like, she kept coming up with all these reasons, like, I'm going to a fundraiser on the night my opponent claims he wants to debate me. I will debate anyone at any time, anywhere. And a very righty online media journalist by the name of Ben Shapiro, he's not a politician, but he said, oh, okay, I'll debate you. And her response was, don't catcall me. And she stopped responding to him. So, I think regardless of what your opinion is, like if that's your immediate go-to, you've already lost the game before the game has even started. And like I said, the odious opinion that you and I are monsters because we prefer old school D&D, yes, there are golems in my game. I don't remember.
Golems was the other one that he mentioned.
But I was
into my Gygax stole from every mythological genre there was. Every culture, a whole lot of fictional ones as well. I mean, the man-eating apes. I don't know too many real world cultures. Perhaps I'm ignorant, but I don't mean real world cultures with man-eating apes in them. But they were sure as shit in a lot of Robert E. Howard Conan stories.
Yeah. Oh, well, Robert E. Howard was a racist, Kyle. Don't you know that?
Well, I mean, he probably was, but the stories are still interesting, and
Yeah.
he's not writing about machine gunning people into ditches and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's just Conan with his mighty thews. Well, I mean, Conan did commit genocide, though. There was a little bit where he journeys to the far south of the continent, and there's a lizard man or a snake man, and he's the last member of his race, and he fights Conan, and Conan kills him. So if it's the last guy and you kill him, then not only is that murder, but that's genocide as well.
Oh, well, there you go. Conan the Genocider.
But he's an evil. But it was an evil snake man, so he had it coming.
There you go. Yeah, it's funny. People that like to point at the old pulps and say they're racist, I'm like, look, I will happily go through the Fafhrd and Grey Mouser books and Conan books and Cole books and John Carter, especially John Carter and Tars Tarkas of Venus and all of those books, and I will gleefully, gigglingly highlight every section where these supposed racist stereotype heroes rail tan women, black women, brown women, Asian women, and they enjoy the hell out of it. That does not sound like the actions of a racist to me. But what do I know? I'm just some old guy who plays D&D and yells at the internet. So,
well, look, I think the other aspect is whatever the source material is, what matters really today, because I don't believe that a book by itself can do harm. The book is just a tool. It's what you do with it. We've had this conversation before that, like, I, as a Jewish person, I would play Meyerforg if it was any good. And that was a role-playing game written by some Scandinavian guy who's cross-burning racist Nazi
terrorist.
With Meyerforg,
let's just lay that out.
The problem is that Meyerforg is shit. It's confused, muddled shit. And I mean, that's usually going to be the case. If somebody comes to write a role-playing game or any kind of entertainment with the aim of promoting a particular ideology, whether that ideology be something reprehensible, like Nazism or fascism or something that's quite good, like, I don't know, charity or something like that. But if their primary idea is ideology, the entertainment will not be good. Your first aim has to be entertaining. You can sort of slip some ideology in there, and some will creep in without your, intending to, because the writing is an expression of you. So it's going to come out whether you mean to or not. But if your primary intention is to put across an ideological viewpoint, then your writing will be shit. And that's the real problem with Meyerforg, that it's shit.
Yeah.
So I would play it. But the thing is that if I sat down with a bunch of Jewish friends and played it, that doesn't make us, we've internalized anti-Semitism or some crap like that. What really matters in the end is not what's written in the book, but what happens at the game table. Yeah. How do we treat one another as gamers? And my long experience of gaming is that gamers will certainly exclude one another, but that's, I mean, it's just basic schoolyard bully and cliques sort of stuff happens. Little groups excluded each other and so on. Mm-hmm. But they're not doing so on the basis of ethnic background or gender or sexuality or anything like that. They're doing it just in the normal way that happens in schoolyards and in offices everywhere. So what really matters is what happens at the game table. And game tables, in my experience, are pretty inclusive. Before the lockdowns last year, when we still had some game clubs, I looked around and I went, oh, well, so much for role-playing dying, because the places were just packed. And when I looked around, the demographic of the game groups was basically the same as the demographic of that area. So the one in the city, we've got a lot of university students, and we got a lot of white kids. We also got a lot of kids of some sort of Asian background, East Asian background. Particularly, we have a lot of Chinese foreign students come here.
Sure.
And that's who I saw at the game table. young men, young women of that. In my area, there's more Indians, and so when I go into a game store in my area, I see more Indians at the game table. Basically, the game groups just reflect the demographics of the area, and we find that our own individual game groups tend to reflect just the demographics of our own friendship circle. You know, if you're friends with a lot of people from Albania, then you probably got some Albanians in your game group. You know,
Sure.
So that's my experience. So I think whatever the source material may or may not say, and I don't believe that the source material that Dungeons and Dragons first edition is racist in any way, shape, or form. But let's imagine that it is. It's horribly racist, sexist, transphobic, blah, blah, blah. The gamers themselves are not. So it doesn't matter what the material is. It's not like, you know, I could give you a copy of Mein Kampf and you're not going to go around and start machine gunning people at synagogues. That's because that's not you.
No.
So, you know, so it's a whole non-argument because number one is bullshit. The game books aren't bigoted in that way. Number two, even if they were, that's not going to change people's behavior at the game table.
No, it's not. And I mean, you know, I think you hit on it, that if the game is good, then the game stands on its own merits. If you bring an ideology to the table, it's going to sink the game. It's not going to matter how good or bad the game is. It's going to be laden with ideology. I mean, you know, I'm treading on dangerous ground here because I'm potentially giving people that might not like me. This doesn't sound a little paranoid, but you know, someone who might not like me might selectively edit what I'm about to say. But you know, Kyle, I hope you understand, and I hope everybody watching the stream understands how not racist and not anti-Semitic I am. I love the works of H.P. Lovecraft, role-playing games based on his stuff. Some of the movies, a lot of them bad, not a lot of them good, but you know, they're good for a larf. I'm well aware of how virulently racist H.P. Lovecraft was. It doesn't matter. I didn't hang out with him. I don't subscribe to his ideals and his ideology. I read his stuff to get an existential horror spook.
Well, look, I think the guy obviously had issues. It's like Robert E. Howard. You know, his mum dies and he commits suicide. And there's not much evidence of Robert E. Howard having had sex with a woman. You know, Isaac Newton died a virgin as well. I mean, these guys have issues, and they tend to have poor interpersonal relationships and so on. It's like, so I haven't seen it. Someone was telling me about the documentary about the guy who free climbed some crazy ass cliff in Yosemite, and El Capitan or something. It's absurdly difficult, and he didn't bother carrying a rope because, you know, and he trained for years to just climb this one thing, and at any moment he could have plummeted to his death. And you know, in the course of it, he lost his relationship with his girlfriend and so on. And it's like, it takes an emotionally broken person to do that sort of thing, to free climb this enormous rock, to write, you know, 1,000 pulp serial books about some character, to come up with an entirely new theory of gravity or methods of mathematics or whatever. But they tend to be emotionally broken people. And sometimes their emotional brokenness expresses itself in the form of bigotry. But more often it's just, you know, they're alcoholics and they have terrible interpersonal relationships and all the rest, you know. I mean, Hemingway was a total pisshead and a womanizer, but he has brilliant writing. You know.
Consider Bobby Fischer.
I think it's...
You know, Bobby Fischer, greatest chess player. I would say him and Kasparov are about like that. Oh my God, the last few years of Bobby Fischer's life, like just, he was fucking out there, you know? Just the things he said. I can't, Google, kill this live stream if I repeat some of the stuff he said. You know, our live stream with all 2 viewers on it, they'd be like, nope, delete.
Well, yeah. Look, there's crazy guys out there, and I think for people to, when they get on the top level of whatever their game is, at that top level, to really excel, they have to be a bit broken emotionally, a bit crazy. So I think, yeah, I think you've just got to take their writing on its own merits.
Exactly. Separate the art from the artist, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Because, like, especially when even the most affable one turns out to have molested his adopted daughter or something. And
yeah.
You know, Woody Allen seemed really inoffensive over many years, and then it turns out he's not a very nice person.
Oh my God, yes. But, Annie Hall, Sleeper, On the Run, Crimes and Misdemeanors. And then, holy shit, everything he did just kind of fell out, and I'm like, ugh. You know?
Yeah. He's not a nice person.
No, he's not.
He should probably be hanged. But after he's hanged, we can still watch his movie.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a limit. I think if the things you did represent an existential threat to humanity, we can probably say, no, the art that the artist created should probably go too. But, you know, we can debate.
Yeah, but those sort of people aren't usually very good artists. You know, Hitler wasn't a very good artist.
No.
You know, nobody would be collecting his paintings if he hadn't also murdered 27 million people. So,
there's a book by Norman Spinrad that I recommend you and anyone else read. It's called The Iron Dream, and it is one of the most bitingly satirical science fiction novels ever written, and it's written by a German expatriate who came to the United States in the 1920s after dabbling in radical politics in Germany, and became a celebrated pulp science fiction author and cover illustrator. Of course, you and everyone listening know I'm talking about pulp SF writer Adolf Hitler. But no, Norman Spinrad wrote this novel and an introduction and an outro from the alternate reality perspective that what I just described happened. Hitler dabbled in radical politics, emigrated to the United States after realizing it was going to get him thrown in jail, found work as a pulp magazine sci-fi cover illustrator, and then tried his hands at writing. And the book is like a send-up of a lot of the Campbellian Superman tropes, if you will, and the whole book is like, if you're sitting there reading it and you're just going into it clean, just like, okay, I'm not even gonna, you know, it's like, okay, I could definitely see like this being the work of an early Robert Heinlein or Jack Williamson or something like that. But when you realize that you're reading the thing, it's like a science fictionified Mein Kampf. and the orders to the general government that would have been in control of Russia if they defeated the Russians. And you're, oh, shit. Okay, wait a minute. And it's
my struggle to become a pulp magazine illustrator.
Yeah. and it's what's so funny is, with the permission of some noted science fiction authors, and one of them was actually oh shit, I've gone blank now. Which one was it? But he sent the manuscript around with a note explaining the premise. He didn't gotcha anybody. And he said, hey, read this, or at least read the premise, and give me like a praising cover blurb that I could put on the back or on the flyleaf, or give me permission to write one in your style. And so many were like, you know, Lester Del Rey was like, oh yeah, this is a hoot, let's do that, and that sort of thing. But I'm trying to think. Let's see. Because I want to make sure that I've got this Come on. Come on. 100 megabits. You can go a little faster than this. Harlan Ellison, when he read it, was like, shit, no, yeah. I'm not going to let you write the blurb. I'm going to write the blurb. Because he got the joke. So he went through and said, "Oh, the Iron Dream is, one of the most gripping science fiction adventures of the latter half of the 20th." And they had so much fun just kind of skewering I don't know what, but it was good. But no, the Iron Dream is like I said, it's a very funny, tongue-in-cheek read that, if you take it with a huge grain of salt, can be a very entertaining spoof of the Superman tropes in early science fiction.
Yeah, well, as well, I think that's the very best thing to do with truly evil people, which is to laugh at them.
Yeah, point and laugh.
I don't like all these documentaries about serial killers and that, where they take them so seriously, or all these little TV series where they're like, oh yeah, Ted Bundy was so handsome and all that. I don't like that. I don't like when we glamorize them or even demonize them. I think the Prime Minister of New Zealand, after the massacre in Christchurch, had a very good thing, saying, I'm not going to speak his name. You just let them be anonymous, not a glamorous thing. So I think you either let them be anonymous, these truly evil people, and just set them aside, or you make fun of them. Like the producers. Springtime for Hitler in Germany, winter for Poland and France.
Yeah. We'll produce something so awful it'll be guaranteed to lose money. Oops.
Yeah. So you just and you make fun of it. You make fun of it, and I just think it would be very hard for the producers to be made today if it were an entirely original production. I think
it was
it would be very hard.
It was really successful with Matthew Broderick, Nathan Lane, and Will Ferrell played the role that Kenneth Mars played in the film movie.
But that was a remake. The original was in the 70s.
Yeah.
The original was in the 70s.
The original was in the 70s.
Mel Brooks was writing when there were tens of million people still alive who had been victims of Hitler. He was writing, and he was making the show then, making fun of all the Nazis and all the rest. Or like Hogan's Heroes makes fun of Nazis pretty well.
Yep.
And the British one, the Hello Hello, that makes fun of them very well.
Yep.
Now we don't seem to be as enthusiastic about making fun of them. We take them very, very seriously. And I think it's the best thing to do to make fun of them. We had here in Australia, there's like these 30 to 40 guys who are basically the neo-Nazi movement in Australia. That's it. There's these 30 to 40 guys. There's maybe a couple of hundred across the country.
The master race.
And 30 to 40 who they go and they've started, yeah, all 30 to 40 of them. Yeah. And they go and they wave the Aussie flag and all the rest. And, and recently on one weekend, they went away up into the Grampians, a rural area, hills and rocks and stuff. They went out bush and they took pictures of themselves shirtless with balaclavas on and waving the Aussie flag and so on. And it's like, yeah, you're 20 or 30 young guys getting shirtless together with balaclavas on. Yeah, I can see why you're so anxious about homosexuals and all the rest of it. You've got some unresolved feelings there, guys. But yeah, they're getting out there in the bush, and you just need to laugh at them. People. There are all these people popping up. Oh, the government should ban them, have a prescribed terrorist organization, and ban them. And they're like, nah, just let them go out and play in the bush, and then take the piss out of them. Because these guys want you to be afraid of. They don't want you to point and laugh. And really, they just shirtless guys with balaclavas waving Aussie and Nazi flags at the same time. They're in the same category as the guy standing there in the squirrel suit saying, "Don't laugh at me." It's
yeah.
It's just idiots who need to be laughed at.
And I mean, I cope with the trauma in my life, which I'm not, this is neither the time nor the place, but there's a trauma in my life that it's in my distant past, in my childhood. I make horrible off-color jokes about it because I'm not going to give the inflictor of my trauma the power to reach out across almost 50 years and still choke me, and still inflict harm on me. I'm not going to do it. So you're absolutely right. I mean, these people, regardless of whether it's Vars Virkens and his little shit role-playing game, or whatever, don't give them the power. Don't give the power to people who want to take a massive crap on Dungeons and Dragons. Just point and laugh at them, It's you're wasting a lot of brain power, hoping that these guys don't somehow manage to retroactively ban old school D&D, whatever school of D&D that you're afraid of them banning. Just point and laugh. Just say, are you really that concerned that
well, I'm not that. I don't think they're that much of a danger because their attention span is short. They have virulent hatred for someone or something for about 5 minutes, and then they move on to the next target.
I don't disagree.
Even if the person does deserve the hatred, they soon forget about him. Like Louis C.K. Is he not hated anymore? The guy did wrong and vile things. He did wrong and vile things, and all he did was just lay low for a year or two and then pop back up again. Yeah. And there was this little murmur of, "Oh, what? He's back. We shouldn't let him be back." But they were busy with other targets by then. Yeah. So even someone who's genuinely done vile things and deserves to be excluded from humanity, even that person is, their attention drifts onto something else. So I don't think we have to worry about Dungeons and Dragons or Advanced Dungeons and Dragons because, even if it were deserving of loathing, they would soon find another target.
Yeah. And the only thing that brings people back, and this is something, and I am participating in it by, I do streams where I yell and say 4-lettered words and stuff about these people. The only thing that keeps them coming back is like, and I fully admit to being half of the problem, and anybody who will have these arguments on my side is half of the problem. The only thing that gives them power is to keep saying, "Oh, I'm not done yet. I'm going to argue you down," and then they turn around and then they keep going. It just fuels everybody's rage stack. So,
yeah, and that's why. I think it comes back to what has sometimes had to be said at the game table, which is shut the fuck up and roll the dice.
Yeah.
It's...
You're absolutely... Ladies and gentlemen,
you get that
truest statement. Shut the fuck up and roll the dice. That is really absolutely positively the be-all, end-all of situations like this. Shut the fuck up and roll some dice. In fact, I think you should do a pocket roll, like a 1-page pocket role playing game where the only rules for the game master, just like game master rules. When the players argue, just look at them and say, "Shut the fuck up and roll some dice." And the rest is just rules for the players.
I believe that's... My understanding is that's why the Wandering Monster check was invented. When the dungeon master got too bored by the when Gygax got too bored by the players rabbiting on about nothing or arguing amongst themselves about nothing, he just rolled for Wandering Monster. Okay, yep. Whoever was the noisiest, you roll for Wandering Monsters.
Yeah.
And then whatever the roll came up, there was a monster.
I should start doing that in the Monday night game. Is just say, Steve, roll a d6. And it'll come to him pretty quickly that I have basically done the equivalent of Daddy told me to go get the Switch. Daddy is making me go get the Switch. or mom or whatever. I got to go get the house shoe. I think I should.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot more Okay. Oh, you rolled a 1. Roll percentile dice. Okay, now roll 4d10. All right, give me a second. I start generating up a bugbear encounter.
Yeah. There's this poisonous idea that people come up with that you see discussions online about this or that problem in my game group. How do I solve it? Blah blah blah. And then you hear these stupid words saying, "You can't solve out of game problems with in-game action." That's bullshit. That's the best way to solve out of game problems.
Yes, it is.
If two players are arguing, you have their characters. Okay, so your characters are arguing. Are you going to fight? Are you going to challenge each other to a duel? And then you quickly see, and of course we're going to use all the rules, and you have to make your saving throws and all the rest. You quickly see how seriously the players are taking that argument. Are they willing for their character to risk death over this? And it keeps them quiet. And as a game master, you can be the same. When the players are mouthing off and saying stupid things, in the presence of the High King or whatever, well, they get the guards come and cart them off, and all the rest. You do. That's the very best way to solve out of game problems with in-game action, because it makes it less personal. See, the implicit thought of people who recommend against this is that it'll make it more personal, and there'll be nastiness. But there's already nastiness at the game table. You let them get that nastiness out by rolling the dice. It's like the thing in all those old movies where the two kids are having the fight, and so that the mentor figure, the teacher or the priest or whatever, says, "Right then, lads, put on the gloves and sort it out."
Mm-hmm.
So they formalize the conflict between these two people, and that makes the people think, number one, do I really want to have this conflict? Do I really want to take it that far? Maybe I should back down. And number two, if they do want to continue it, it gets the bad blood out. So now we hope that we don't come to fisticuffs at the game table, but when it's just rolling dice, that's completely harmless. And I think it abstracts the conflict between these two human beings, and it brings it back to game terms, and it brings the focus back on the what's happening at the game table, rather than all this blather outside it. It makes it a game again.
Yeah,
that's what you want. You want to take it away from the personal and make it a
right.
All right, let's then fight it out. And it takes away a lot of the tension that was present at the game table.
Sure, and the more ridiculous the dice rolls in those circumstances, the funnier the conflict becomes. The further back the players are from abstracted, and like, all right, a roll to attack. I rolled a 1. All right, I roll to attack him back. I rolled a 1. And then you as a game master get to describe, both players reeling back with haymakers and staggering past each other,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the best one I had was a couple of gamers playing, and there was a fighter arguing with a magic user, and so I said, "Oh well, duke it out." And the magic user wasn't really keen on a melee fight, so he cast polymorph and he turned the fighter into a pig.
So I've got to wonder, did the fighter make his system shock roll, or did he wind up thinking he was a pig?
He made a system shock
roll. Oh, thank goodness.
And then it was like, "Oh, I'll change me back." Oh, I'm sorry, that's the only 3rd level spell I've got left. So you have to wait till tomorrow.
Enjoy 24 hours as a pig.
Yeah. Basically, yeah, enjoyed 24, and so, but then the fighter player got into it to his credit, and it's like, okay, all right, is my attack roll the same? How much damage do I do with my bite? And so they had a little bit of wandering around the dungeon with the player being a pig. He was just annoyed he couldn't wear his armor, but they just stashed all his gear in a corner somewhere.
They didn't so decide to have bacon and ham sandwiches.
Oh, there were many jokes about that. There were many threats of that if he continues his offensiveness, and he's like, and the player's like, but it's like, no, pigs can't talk, mate. You can't be a talking pig. You're not the Mr. Ed of the pig world, so you can't talk. So you, the player, have to be silent. You can suggest things to other players, but you can't communicate with them. You can't have a conversation.
Nice.
In game. So we had to sit there quietly for a bit, being a pig.
Reminds me of the old joke about the guy who meets the farmer, and the farmer's got a 3-legged pig. Guy says, why has your pig got 3 legs? And he says, oh, that's the most talented pig in the world. And he says, well, what do you mean? He said, well, my house caught on fire last spring. And the pig ran in and started squealing and running in circles and tugging on my pajama sleeve while we were asleep. And then I was able to get my whole family out. And he said, oh, did the pig lose his leg in the fire? And he said, no. You see, I was on my way to the farming fair, the 4-H fair, and I thought I'd take the pig along and tell everybody the story, and I lost control of my truck, and it flipped upside down, and I was pinned underneath it, and that pig, he ran 5 miles to the the sheriff's station and got the sheriff, and they came and pulled me off. And he said, oh, and he ran so hard that it cost him his leg. And he said, no, my son was out on a property, and he fell into an old borehole for a well, and he'd have been stuck out there and died, but the pig came and got me and my wife and, pulled on us, and we knew well enough to trust what the pig was doing, and we went and got him out. And he said, oh, so did the pig step in a hole and break his leg badly and have to lose it? And he's like, no. And the guy says, well, why is a pig only got 3 legs? And the farmer smiled and said, well, a pig like that, you don't eat all at once. So you tell Bob the fighter, look, man, we're not going to kill you. We just want to supplement our rations a little. We'll stand by with a healing potion and dump it on you. But
yeah. Well, I suppose he could have been a troll pig and just regenerate.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that would be mean. Cast polymorph on a troll. Polymorph it to a pig. Sell it to a farmer. He's trying to kill it with an axe, and every time he pulls it out.
Well, that was always a player question. Like, could a captured troll be an infinite supply of food?
Yikes. I would imagine troll meat would probably be poisonous, but that's just me.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Well, the closest I've come to that is we killed a troll, and we cut off his head, and we put it, 2 trolls, and we put it in a local bar. We put it in our favourite tavern. We just mounted the heads, and we said, and like, oh, but the body will regenerate. And I was like, well, look, we just set it up so that, like, it's sitting in there in a thing of spikes and it's constantly doing damage or whatever. And DM's like, okay, I don't want to know the details. But so we had the troll heads mounted on the wall of the tavern, so, and going, people. So all the young guys were constantly, reaching their hands towards the mouth. No! That was a thing that people did after they got a few drinks in them.
There you go.
So I don't remember what the tavern had been called, but it ended up being renamed the Troll's Head Tavern.
I like it.
It was very popular, had a gimmick.
Yeah, so. You gotta have a gimmick. I asked Gary once, like, okay, so if there's a cave-in in a dungeon and the party survives the actual rocks falling, and the only spell that could possibly get them out, because they can't move that much stone, is stone to flesh, and then they hack through the meat. What if they want to eat some of it? And he just laughed, and he was like, I don't. It'd be like eating popcorn, no nutritional value to that. Fair enough. I mean, can you imagine? Just like, oh man, pork rinds. Wait a minute, you didn't kill Bob, did you? No, I just can't cast a transmute stone to flesh on a boulder.
On the wall.
Just scraped that off, and, now we've got a tasty snack.
Yeah, well, it is a thing we did in the early campaigns, when we were like 15 years old, and we just made 12th level characters straight off the bat.
Yeah.
Stone to flesh on the walls, and so you could get through if you were lost or something.
I think Ernie Gygax said that when his dad ran him through Tomb of Horrors, uh, like him and one of his brothers, did, like, okay, you've each got like 15th level characters, and you guys can just as a duo go against the Tomb of Horrors. When they got to a Cesarax, he's got the jeweled skull that can suck out your soul if you touch it. Um,
Yeah.
they cast transmute rock to mud and then dispel magic on the plinth that the skull's sitting on. So basically ended up encased in rock, and they just scraped up as much treasure out of the room as they could and hightailed it out. That's thinking outside the box. That's the players you got to watch out for, man.
Wasn't there another one where somebody just put like a bag of holding over it and then cast dispel evil or something?
Yeah, it was something like that involved they scooped his Cesarac skull into the bag of holding.
Mm.
I feel like the dispel evil was the next right correct step was how they dealt with that. But yeah. People that bitch about Tomb of Horrors, it's like, oh, it's a killer module and it's just a gimmick. No, it's not. It's designed for exercising abstract thinking. It's a thought exercise. It's like, of course,
it's like the example that regular listeners will remember me describing of the players casting hold portal on the sarcophagus lid of a mummy, and then drilling holes in it and pouring oil in it and lighting it up.
Yeah.
And they could do that at first level. So, it's
now granted they're going to lose a lot of treasure, but
yeah, they set fire to scrolls and stuff like that as well. But oh well.
Yeah,
they had the gold, and that's what's important to first level guys.
Yep.
But yeah, the D&D rewards that kind of thing. Well, with an intelligent GM, it rewards.
Well, I mean, the players clearly followed the unbreakable rule one, and this is why later D&D have gone off the tracks, boys and girls. I mean, what would one of our live streams be without some addition warring? But rule one of D&D was avoid unnecessary encounters.
Yeah.
First level players, mummy is what, a 5+4 hit die monster? We got a fix for this. Hold portal on the door, rock drill, oil. Done.
Yeah.
Quote exactly. Captain Kirk, I got a commendation for original thinking.
Pretty much.
So,
yeah, it rewards imagination. It doesn't reward sticking all your ideology in it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
You don't need ideology. Just be decent to be excellent to each other. Just be decent to the people around the game table.
Yeah.
Treat them as individual human beings. Treat them with respect. And that's sufficient. You don't need to do a little course on it. You don't need to have awareness sessions to tell you not to be an arsehole to people.
Yeah.
That's online. I think it's just, we're a generation that didn't grow up with the internet. Now, I think if you've grown up your whole life sitting at a keyboard and looking at a screen, then possibly you do need some lessons in how to be a normal human being and interact with people. So it might be appropriate for some of the younger ones, but I think if you didn't grow up with the internet, if you didn't grow up plastered to a screen, then you probably have some social skills and you know how to be decent to people.
Yeah. So
and as I said, that's what I'm seeing, or that's what I saw at game clubs. More recently, I saw very mixed groups with every gender and ethnic background available. It was just whoever happened to be in the area, So people just game with people they know, and if they know people from a variety of backgrounds, they will game with them.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you're accommodating and welcoming to all. And that's what I've seen in my game groups, and it's what I see in my gym as well. You just, whoever walks in, you be friendly and welcome them, and hand them some cheesels, or Cheetos and a Coke and some dice and tell them to roll up a character. Probably not in the gym, but
Yeah, no, I would be a little surprised if I found myself in Melbourne checking out your gym and you handed me Cheetos and a Coke. Happily surprised, but surprised nonetheless.
Oh well, we have Cokes in there. We've got schnapps and some other alcohol in there.
Excellent.
A shot of schnapps right before a heavy deadlift helps. But
I saw one.
I haven't had any gym. I haven't had any gym goers become gamers, but I've had gamers become gym goers.
Now I thought you were telling me about Merkava. Was she? What's her deal?
Yeah. Merkava. So she was a gym goer, but I mean she didn't do tabletop role playing games before, but she's done plenty of computer games. She's done stacks of computer games, and she likes the more open world ones. She likes Fallout 4 and So she was a gamer at heart. She just hadn't had the opportunity yet. I mean, she's a paramedic, so she does night shift. So she's not the sort of person she's not going to get a regular game group.
Right.
That's going to be hard for her. She just has to grab it when it comes. So she just hadn't had the opportunity before. So some people, I exclude those people who are already basically gamers, but they don't know it yet.
Yeah,
they don't really count. But yeah, just about everyone else in the gym, they just do gym. And I have had a few gamers ask to come to my gym, and I'm usually a bit cautious about it because gaming is once a week. And then gym is 2 or 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
They may not want to see me 4 days a week. That might be too much for them. And so when I get gamers ask about the gym, I try to discourage them because I'm worried that they might go to the gym and stop coming to gaming. And I mean, the gym makes me money, but I'd rather have gaming.
Oh, I feel you. I feel you, man. Definitely.
I've got enough money. I'd rather have gaming.
I was just going to mention
when they express an interest,
you were talking about the booze. There's an image. I need to send it to you. Those of you who still fiddle around with Facebook and follow me there. There's a woman. It looks like she's curling like maybe 30 pounds. It's not a lot, but on her bar, she's got a she's got a rig for a wine bottle, and every time she curls, she takes a glug off the bottle of wine that she's got on her bar. See, if you got that into Kyle's gym, man, it'd be like gangbusters. It's like the more weights you add, the stronger stuff. You start out with little fizzy drinks like this, and you work your way up to those vodka and stuff like that.
Well, no, they just get a shot of schnapps before a big deadlift. Those who drink, anyway. I've got a few teetotalers there.
I feel you. I feel you. Oh, siren out there.
What's going on in your back?
I don't know.
What have you done, Bill?
They're coming for me. I gotta head to the bunker. I gotta be honest. I get a lot at my cell carrier is really getting good about marking calls as spam risk or just spam caller. And I'm working on a script right now. And anybody out there that's watching or listening, and definitely you, Kyle, as my co-host, I want a little bit of work on something that I can blurt out intelligibly in the space of 45 seconds to a minute that sounds like authentic, panicked dialogue that a missile silo crew would be exchanging in the middle of a crisis. Just, grab the phone, Kilo Capsule LCC, you're going to have to wait, put the phone down, and then step away and just start rambling off all this panicky stuff like, get me SAC on HF. SAC is down, sir. And some person who's called me about my auto warranty is sitting on the other end going, I want to see if I can assemble that one day. So anybody out there who's got any experience with the Air Force or suggestions for how I can scare the living shit out of somebody who's just trying to make a few extra bucks, cold calling with
so you're a bit like
spam.
You're a bit like Ron Swanson with his shotgun blast ringtone on his phone.
Exactly so. I think we should all strive to be a little bit more like Ron Swanson. Great quotes. History began on July 4th, 1776. Everything prior to that was a mistake. And what's his they were gonna like interview him about the misplacement of some funds or something at the Parks and Rec office, and they do the cutaway, and he said, "My strategy in any kind of legal entanglements is to always be a hostile witness." And they go, they're like, "Okay, and your name is Ron Swanson?" And he just leans forward and goes, "Is that what it says on the paper?"
Yeah, he answers every question with a question.
Every question with a leading question, and by the end they're like, "Okay, I think we're done here. You can go." And he says, "Can I?" You have to appreciate that, folks. You really have to. Ron might picture himself as some, Buckleyan arch conservative, but the guy is really just a smirking troll. And I love the character for it. One of my best things is like not even actually a quote. It's when he gets a computer with an internet connection. He's just sitting there, and then he stops, and they like zoom in on him, and he's got this really disappointed look on his face. And the next scene, he's walking out behind the offices to the dumpster, like with the monitor, the computer, the mouse and keyboard, everything, and just throws it in. And it makes
It's because his secretary had told him that it would record everything he did.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh!
He didn't like that invasion of privacy.
You're a good man, Ron. You're a good, smart man, and they said using their government-approved ISP to communicate via Google.
Well, I've been on the internet since 1996 or something, so the privacy horse has bolted for me a long time ago.
Yeah. If somebody wants to dig all the way through Usenet, how can I say this politely, Kyle? I'm fucked.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll have a fun time reading what 19-year-old Bill had to say on Usenet.
Yeah. Well, that's what I figure. It's all the if I'd known then what I know now, I would have been the first user of a VPN and all the rest.
God, yes. Tell me about it. I just
too late now.
Just hook it straight to my veins, I mean, when I made the jump from a Commodore Amiga computer back in 1994, I'd used Commodore stuff since like the VIC-20 that my parents bought me in 1982. And I made the jump to a PC. I mean, if you had told me, yeah, Microsoft Windows, I know, you're kind of coming to grips with it, and it's a little different from Amiga. About 18 years, and they're going to spy on you. What do you mean they're going to spy? They're going to spy on you, and you're going to like it. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to ask them to do it more. Because the more they spy on you, the cooler stuff that they say they'll let you do. Oh, you want to use DirectX 12? Your computer always has to be plugged into the internet for that. But I can't play Far Cry 5 without DirectX 12.
Well, I think
that's right. It's fucking Paranoia, the role-playing game, come true.
I think if the German Democratic Republic had known that we were going to voluntarily carry tracking devices on us all the time, they would have hung on for another 10 years. They would have just like machine gunned some protesters, hung on for another 10 years for that technology to come about, and then they would have had this perfect totalitarian.
Yeah. Then the reunification would have been West Germany begging East Germany to be in the driver's seat. Angela Merkel was a young pioneer. Everybody like praises this woman. She was a junior Stasi. She was literally part of the junior auxiliary of the German secret police.
Yeah, but everyone was. Wasn't it like 1/4 of the population a registered informant?
Yeah, something like that. Like when when West Germany, like, they sent building inspectors to East Germany to, like, just to apartment buildings, not like businesses and the corporations that the East Germans were allowed to have, but just like apartment buildings that the CIA, NATO, DIA, MI6, no interest in whatever. And so they're like, yeah, the Soviets and you guys kind of use asbestos for a long time, and there's electrical standards we got to bring you guys up to. Yeah, they just started inspecting random apartment buildings, and there's fucking Stasi offices built into the cores and the residents are like, oh my god. How long were they spying on us? Well, how old is this building? I mean, pretty much since 1960 something, but yeah, just however old this building is, that's how long they were in there. So
yeah, but they still fell over. So
yeah,
it's the old problem. You have all that information, but what do you do with it? It doesn't mean you know how to use it intelligently. So we saw in Australia in the last few days. So Facebook had a dispute with the government because the government wants to actually.
Oh yeah,
pay some money to somebody.
So yeah, detail us on this. One of the reasons we're doing this on Google, folks, is Kyle rightly is fed up with Facebook. So I think I made a mush of it explaining it. So please give us the deets on that.
Oh, okay. So what's happening is that, like, all the traditional media outlets, as they are around the world, have suffered horribly because of the rise of the internet. People aren't buying as many newspapers, and because not as many people are buying newspapers, advertisers are not as willing to pay for advertising, which makes it harder for them to pump up their circulation. So radio's had this problem, television has had this problem, and print media has had the problem as well. So the traditional news media has been struggling over the years and gradually reducing the number of journalists and the rest, and that's why it's no longer. And now we cross to Alman in Ulaanbaatar, because we don't have an office in Ulaanbaatar anymore because that would be too expensive. Instead, we just have Reuters, which has the freelance journalist who sends in a report, and then the rest of the world uses that report. So we really hope that he's not just sitting in a hotel in New York somewhere and pissing it up and making all this shit up.
Right.
So all news media has had that problem. And there was an ACCC, so there's the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, and they do kind of antitrust stuff and anti-collusion stuff and all the rest. And people argue about how effective they are, how much teeth they've got, and how much they're willing to use them. But anyway, that's the theory of the ACCC. And they spent a couple of years doing a report and basically looking at diversity in the media. And they said there wasn't enough diversity in the media. There's not enough different news organizations. And there's certainly not enough diversity in the online space. That basically social media basically is Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically social media. It's at least 2/3 of all social media, and search engines and email is basically Google and so on. And they said there's not really enough diversity. Now, from the position of Australia being a small country, we can't break up those monopolies. The US can, but we can't. So they're saying, what can we do to encourage local ones? And the ACCC had a number of recommendations, most of which the government completely ignored. But what they did take on was that, so Facebook only exists because there's content, right? If nobody posts and shares content, it's just Facebook Messenger. It's just a messenger service, and we may as well be using AOL, Instant Messenger from 25 years ago. Anything could be a messenger service. So the reason it exists is because of the content that people put there. The content, whether it be cat videos or our own personal political rants or pictures of our kids or the news media stuff. So the theory was Facebook is indirectly profiting from having the news media, from having an ABC page, having an Age page or New York Times page or whatever. They're indirectly profiting from it. And Facebook's response is, yeah, but we send the links to you and then people go to your websites. So we have this many hits, and we value it as this much money because this is how much you would pay if you were paying for advertising. So if you're going to pay $1,000 to get 1,000 hits or whatever, and we give you 1,000 hits, then we're effectively giving you $1,000 worth of value because you can get $1,200 of advertising out of it or whatever. So they said they were going to pass a law making them pay. And Facebook's response was, yeah, but we let you host them for free. And so there's an argument about who gets the most value of it. Mm-hmm. To my mind, it's much like the argument back in the 70s and 80s when they put a tax on cassette tapes because people were doing cassette recordings of their records, or the VCR tax and all the rest. So to my mind, it's really is that argument all over again. How much, when you do a recording of your LP cassette, how much is the artist losing because you didn't buy another LP or someone else didn't buy an LP, and how much are they gaining because you now stick that in your car while you're driving and then somebody else hears it and says, oh, I better buy that LP too. I don't know.
No.
I don't know, and I'm sure it differs for each generation of technology. I'm sure it differs. So it's essentially that. So anyway, the government basically said, okay, we're going to put a charge. And then Google popped up and said, all right, then we just won't have our search engine in Australia. We'll just cut off the search engine. They threatened to do that. And then Microsoft stepped up and said, oh, that's cool. You can use Bing instead. We can work with the Australian government to help people use Bing instead. Google then found it in their hearts to come to an accommodation with the government to pay them a certain amount that would then be passed on to news media. So then the government stepped up to Facebook. Facebook, unlike Google, doesn't have any competitors really. So Facebook then said, all right, if the alternative is to have to pay for it, we will just cut off all news media. So all the ABC Online and the Age and all the rest of the Australian news media, their pages didn't go completely dark. It just said no posts to show. Just said no posts. Just went blank. But they also knocked off the Department of Health, the Department of Defense, the Fire Brigade, the Bureau of Meteorology, and all the rest. This rather upset the government because they said, we're in the middle of a pandemic, we're rolling out vaccines, we've got floods and fire going on. One of the ways we keep people informed is with the government websites. One of the ways people access the government websites is by way of following the Facebook pages and so on. So now, people's opinions differ on whether this was deliberate or not, whether Facebook was really trying to unfriend all of Australia. I think they just fucked up. Yeah. I think they just someone put in a bit of code to block all the Australian website or news sites because there's, as well as the major ones, there's half a dozen major ones, but there's thousands of minor ones because there's local newspapers. They're all owned by the same company, and they've got the same content, but there's all these local ones and all the rest. They even shut down pages of neighborhood houses and stuff. Things like that. A neighborhood watch.
My God.
Shit like that. So I think they didn't want to go through and manually shut down each one. So they just did a blanket thing, and there was a lot of collateral damage. So this had the effect of making the government stand more firm. It was like, okay, screw you then, Facebook. You're going to just arbitrarily shut us all down? No, screw you guys. So it made them stand more firm. So they've now come to some agreement. The government's amended the legislation in some way, and nobody's really sure who won. Because Facebook seems to have backed down, and the government seems to have backed down and amended the legislation in some way, but nobody's really sure who won. But the pages are gradually coming back.
Jesus.
So this was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for me with Facebook. Over many years, I've found it not that useful. I felt that I did have to have a Facebook page for the business.
Mm-hmm.
But then I looked back through all my data because I have the data or referrals where my clients have come from. Sure. And so on. And nobody's come from Facebook in all the years that I've been on it. I think it does have indirect value for my particular business. So there were like knitting pages that people selling their crocheted stuff that got shut down. and they had a Facebook-only business. That was their only way of being in contact with their customers. So they needed it. But me, with my little garage gym, and I've got my web page, and my customers come from the inquiries through the web page or referrals from current ones. So the Facebook page has the value in it. It's kind of social proof that if somebody has heard of us, they might go and look us up on Facebook, and then they'll see pictures and all the rest. I can't quantify that and what the value is. I'll find out because I shut it down. Or I shut down my account, so I'll find out if it had value or not. And aside from that, I was just using it to communicate with a few friends. But figured, okay, all those friends I've got, I can communicate with in some other way.
Sure.
So yeah,
well, thank you.
Shut it off, and I shut it off, and I felt an immediate sort of weight off my shoulders. I don't know how much that's because of Facebook, or how much is because anytime you kind of simplify your life, you and take this extra non-vital element out of it, then you kind of, phew, I feel better now,
Right. Well, thank you for remaining in touch. That lets me know where I am on the Kyle hierarchy, and I mean that sincerely. It's funny. The thing with the shutdowns reminds me of this, and it's getting a little long in the hour, so we'll probably wrap soon, folks. But I am reminded back in the very early 90s. The university network, that basically the university's internet in the United Kingdom said, we're going to stop obscenity on the university networks. Because as well as I do that governments or large governing bodies saying we're going to stop naughty things always works. It always works. It's infallible. They've shut it down with 100% success. But so they said, we're going to put up a filter. People are not going to post on Usenet using our email addresses, using our domains, and send emails with obscenities in them. So they went to the network administrators. And this was a simpler time of the internet when it was possible to do this with a small group of people. I mean, today, even if they got the itch, they wouldn't even try. But they went to administrators and they said, here's a list of bad words. Put a choke filter on a content filter to choke this off on the backbone servers for public university in the UK. And they said, all right, we'll do it. And suddenly, something like 50% of conversations, Usenet posts, and particularly emails, and I'll get to the email part in just a second, started getting auto-reported. Because that was a thing, is they if you just tried to hammer away and enter, calling someone an MFer in a Usenet post, and it kept getting bounced out, it wouldn't propagate past the server that you were locally logged into, and it kept getting bounced back, and you were just hammering away on it. Somebody from the university would come around and have a chat with you, as it were. The entire University of Scunthorpe in the UK was red flagged and knocked off the internet. Why? Because their university name was in the domain, and their university was mentioned by students, curious onlookers, Kyle's getting it, and administration. Because Scunthorpe is spelled SCUNTHORPE. It's not so much in Australia, but here in the United States, and to a lesser degree in...
So you say nobody would try it nowadays, but those of us who have friends who work in government are aware, if you have profanity in your email that you send to them, it bounces back. It's sent back. and they don't see the email. They just get you had an email from Kyle that had prohibited content in it. That's all they get. So you can't swear in your emails to your government friends.
It's madness.
Presumably they can't swear amongst themselves. Well, yeah. So it just catches everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I've mentioned to you before. In 2016, the Australian government said electronics good. Yes, they had a census. We're going to do the census this year, and we're going to do it online. And people raised concerns. They said there's about 14 million households in Australia. You're going to have 14 million households log on in about a 6-hour period one evening. What? Are your servers up to it? Oh, yes, they've been tested. They've been up to it. And of course, within 20 minutes, it went down. So that became the hashtag census fail 2016. It went down within 20 minutes. And there were government representatives on the TV saying, well, we believe this was perhaps a foreign DNS attack. It's like, hang on. Now, what's a DNS attack? A DNS attack is when you get lots of people try to log on at once. Whereas what you've done here is to have lots of people log on at once.
Yes.
It's
an important distinction.
Does it need to be? They eventually admitted that their systems weren't really up to it.
Yeah, no.
So just government, at least our government, does not do internet very well. It doesn't do software very well. So that's the thing about coming back to the Stasi, and if they had people carrying these tracking devices, they would think it's wonderful, and they would collect all the information, and their rotten regime would still topple over one day, and it would come to a great surprise to all the leaders, because you have all the information, but have you actually absorbed it? As we've seen through people having these 3 books for 30 or 40 years, and there are still basic rules that many people running the games miss out on. Because you have all that information, but have you done anything useful with it?
Yeah.
Have you absorbed it?
Yeah.
Did you just skim read it? So this is why I'm not that worried about government surveillance or corporate surveillance, because Facebook, $1 trillion company, couldn't even get it right when they tried to shut down Australian news sites, and they got collateral damage. And that's why I said some people think that it's deliberate. I don't think so. I think they just fucked up. So I'm not too concerned.
What is the phrase? Never attribute to malice what can be what can be explained away by stupidity.
Yeah, or incompetence.
Or incompetence. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about mobile phones. Just to wind up my thoughts on the subject, I think if you took a mobile phone to Orwell and said everyone will willingly carry this around, it hears everything they do, it knows wherever they go, it reports it to a central computer, it knows it has a built-in typewriting punch card system, and it will flawlessly report it back to a governing body, he would say, I don't fucking believe that, dude. You are being paranoid. 1984, people recognize that that's not the way to live. Aldous Huxley, Brave New World, he'd go, yep, no, I believe it. Because when true totalitarian control comes, it will be Brave New World. It won't be 1984.
Yeah.
Nobody will put up with 1984.
I was saying this to somebody the other day. In Brave New World, they had freedom of speech because it didn't matter what they said, because everyone thought if you expressed discontent with the world, everyone thought you were crazy. So you could go ahead and say that it was terrible.
Yeah.
Nobody tried to silence the dissenter in that. They just went, "What are you, crazy? Why would you not want to live in this wonderful world? Right. Everybody is happy nowadays."
All right. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up and go be happy. And I'm going to clean up the mess that I made today. And Kyle, I'm going to send you an email, Kyle, and tell you about the ongoing technological follies. But we'll catch up with that later. Kyle, will we see you next week? You're going to be co-hosting with us next week? Great.
Of course.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kyle, as always, for joining us. And those of you who've appreciated the bizarre Northern European art house film that was my feed today. And it's been a lot of fun. We'll do this again tomorrow. I will do, we're going to do, hey, do you want to come on for mail call?
So I was, we got diverted by talking about politics in RPGs, probably a mistake. But you had previously said we wanted to talk about this.
Shit. Yes. Traveler. Next week is Traveler. I'm going to do mail call tomorrow, Twilight 2000 tomorrow. And next week, we are diving into Traveler, and I can't wait to hear to do that. Send the TCP/IP painful shock if I start to get off track next week, okay? And I'll promise tomorrow. Next, well, we can come. You can come tomorrow if you want to do tomorrow. But we will do Traveler the next time you're on, whenever you want to be on, okay?
Radio.
All right, guys. Thanks once again for watching. Thank you, Kyle, for being here. I will be back tomorrow earlier in the Eastern Time afternoon. Peace. Remember, I care about you all. That's why I do this. Take care. And nope, we're going to go over here. We're going to stop the stream. End stream.